Oh, what's your name?
Leonie.
Leonie Stephen. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, ma'am. So what do you think? What do you think about my sign that leftism is racism?
I want to know what specifically about leftism you think promotes racism.
Well, I mean, you look at the the two different parties, and you see the left, and they're always promoting the idea of white privilege. That whites are inherently racist, that there's systematic racism, that there's the promotion of CRT, diversity, equity, inclusion, that blacks are all victims. A lot of victimology when it comes to the black community. BLM promotes black supremacy. BLM promotes a lot of racial ideologies, and in all these situations, it's all on the left. The news media, as soon as anything happens, whether there's a white guy and a black guy, and there's some harm to the black guy, they automatically scream racism. Automatic. But when it's flipped, whenever there's something, a black guy doing something to a white person, it's always just, well, here's the issue, instead of pointing to the race, right? So there's a lot of racism being promoted by one side of the aisle that I feel that.
But when you think about, you don't want your side to be regarded as a monolith either, right?
I don't want to be.
That's how you're presenting our side.
I don't think. Well, you're talking about like as far as what?
Because I would consider myself a leftist, right? Critical race theory is honestly quite kind of a hoax, because it's something that conservative think tanks purposely made up. The guy behind the main conservative think tank literally tweeted this, like, oh yeah, we made a score with this critical race theory to send out to Fox News, to send out to Alex Jones, to rile people up on purpose. The schools weren't even really considering stuff like that, but it was purposely made up to get people mad and to get people on one side. But when you're just having leftism presented to you in a certain way, but our intention is never to be like, oh well, one group of people is always racist and then one group of people is always this. Everybody in society, racism is just a sickness that coats our society. It's a disease on our society that affects us all. Not all white people are racist, but everybody in America will have had racial biases pushed on them by media, by propaganda. I remember watching Cops back when I was a kid with my family, and you have it pushes a narrative of black men being criminals and justifying police brutality against them. But that's in popular media. It wasn't, promoted by the news, but it's just something that you find presents itself in a lot of art in our culture, And
sorry.
Well, I'll just
No, you can go ahead. No, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
So, because everybody's capable of being racist.
Absolutely.
And I think you're generalizing the left as seeing it this way, but that's not how I see it, and that's not how my friends see it, and that's not how my family sees it either. But we need to talk about these things. We need to talk about the racial issues in America. And I know that a lot of people on the right will like to say, well, you guys always want to talk about race. That's actually more racist. But we have a horribly dark history, full of atrocities. And history doesn't just go away. It affected our fathers, their fathers, and we feel that generations later.
Okay, a couple things. When you talked about that CRT is more of a hoax, some of the core tenets of CRT is that racism is in every institution. It's embedded in American society. It's everywhere. It's in the prevailing notions of America. Another aspect of CRT is that whites are inherently racist, right? And that the only way you're not racist is if you...
Who told you that?
Oh,
Who's the president of CRT that told you that that's their agenda?
No, not the president of CRT. I mean, you do some...
But what's CRT? What's going on?
Well, there's four...
tenets,
you know what?
But there's no... Is it an organization? An organization?
Well, it's not an organization.
So how are you going to say that, these are the four tenets
Well, it's a concept that's in the
cultural phenomenon.
Well, no, it's been instituted. It's one of those things that is in the.
On my bad day, I got no eyebrows today.
You are fine.
You can record my voice, but don't take a picture of me. Okay.
You fine. It is in the prevailing notions because the notions of CRT are being prevailed. Is being spoken about and being practiced and being promoted by the left, right?
Again, not really though. Like, we weren't talking about this really before, or specifically critical race theory. That was something that was created on purpose. Because that's, when I talk to people on the right, that's all they bring up. But if you talk to someone on the left, we talk about all the different things. And honestly, yes, racism is in every institution.
Really?
In America.
Like, okay, so how are you able to state that?
Okay, so for one, the prison system, the judicial system.
Oh, wait, okay, let's start with the prison system. How so?
Because black people are more likely to be arrested for crimes, even though they don't commit more crimes than white people, but they're generalized and discriminated against.
Well, let's talk about this.
They're usually given like harsher sentences, death sentences.
Well, there's a whole lot more in the devil's in the details, right? Especially when it comes to the black population. So first, we've got to take into account that the black population is about 13% of the population, right? And we commit over 50% of the violent crime in America. You know, the black population, right? Now, most of the violent crime is being committed by men and not women, right? Majority, right?
I mean, that goes for white people too.
Well, we're talking about about the black population. So when it comes to that, so you got to understand, 13% of the population is committing over 50% of the violent crime. Okay, so we account a small percentage of the population accounting for such a high percentage of the violent crime in America. And then when you break that down even further, let's just say there's half men, half women when it comes to the black population. So that's about 6.5%. Let's just say 7. Okay. Now, I'm not a violent crime offender. I don't commit violent crime. So that number is drastically reduced, right? So let's say that 2% of the black population is committing over 50% of the violent crime. So, of course, they're going to be arrested more if you're going to commit more crime, especially violent crime. Then on top of that, you got to look at the cultural aspect, right? Within the black community, there's a big push when it comes to drugs. There's a big push when it comes to violence, right? There's a big push when it comes to delinquencies. There's a big push when it comes to defying authority. You know, F the police was a prevalent song in the 1980s, late 1980s. And that same mentality rings true today. I know it's freaking hot as hell.
Water?
Do we have a water bottle? All I have is mine. I'll get you one.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So when you look at it, there's a lot of cultural aspects that lead the black community to commit more crime, to act in a delinquent way.
What do you think causes that?
What I think causes that? I think that we have very low standards and very low morals when it comes to the black community. That's why I'm all about raising those standards and raising those morals when it comes to us, because we need to do better.
But isn't that because of aren't black people generally suffering from higher rates of poverty and higher rates of crime and higher rates of drug use because of the hundreds of years of slavery and then the following years of Jim Crow and then the following years of redlining, still segregation in schools, hate crimes, lynchings? Doesn't that affect the population?
I mean, if we were talking, absolutely.
Well, it's horrible.
Well,
it's literally one of the most, probably the worst thing in history. Like slavery and all the events following afterwards.
Absolutely.
Black people aren't just going to come out of that like, oh, everything's fine. No one helped them afterwards.
Well, okay,
no one helped them. They were freed, but there was no programs to lift them up. They were slaves and then just let out. To fend for themselves. Well,
a couple things when it comes to that. Yes, there were definitely systems of oppression at that time. And I'm not going to discredit that, or I'm not going to discount that. That's something that is...
it's a lot more than system of oppression. It's a genocidal state.
What was genocidal state?
The U.S.
You think it's currently a genocidal state?
I think historically, the U.S. is a genocidal state.
We had a...
Don't chuckle at that.
Well,
95% of the indigenous population gone. That's genocide.
Okay, well, let's talk about... Let's start with what you were saying there about the black community. Now, yeah, there was things that negatively affected us. Abso-freaking-lutely. And I'm not going to discount that or discredit that. Absolutely. At the same time, though, yes, that happened in the 50s, 60s, you know, civil rights era. Things, you know, started to normalize. Mm-hmm. Now we're in 2022. What's the reason for people not excelling at this point, right? Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that that can't have some type of a factor in a person's poverty, but when does a generational curse get broken?
But it is being broken.
And that's why
black people are progressing and have been, and
have
contributed so much to the American culture, music, and everything, and have found wealth. They are on the rise, but these things take time. And as a society and as a government, to repay them for the atrocities committed against their people, we should have more social programs to
so I need a, so then this is the crux of the issue. You think we need handouts and hand up because that's the only way we can succeed. I don't believe this is the only way we can succeed. I believe we can succeed through our own tenacity, grit, just like you can.
And you guys have been. But
so what you're able to do for yourself, I can do as well. I can, I came out of
social programs should be there for everybody, anyways.
Well, I mean, I don't think that the government should be given handouts because that hasn't been a beneficial thing, especially when it comes to the black community. Welfare has decimated the black community. You had welfare that said, "Look, we'll give you a check. You better get that man out the home, though." As a matter of fact, when it comes to this, will be your primary source of income. Okay. Then you have the feminist movement that said you don't need a man in the first place, right?
Well, that's not necessarily, that's a generalization of the feminist.
That's a very generalization, you know, for the sake of time, you know, that's a very generalization. But when it comes to the black community, there's a lot of issues within our community. And at this point in time, there is no excuse why we can't succeed. Now,
but where are you putting the blame?
Where I'm putting the blame? At this point, us. We can do better.
But why?
But, okay, because...
Why do you guys think that it's your, or not you guys, but why do you think that it's your community's fault?
Well, because at this point in time, we have every opportunity to succeed. Every opportunity. If that means you got to leave out of the daggone ghetto, then you got to leave out of the daggone ghetto.
But it's not that easy for people. I don't think anybody wants to stay.
I think there's a lot of people, you would be surprised, there's a lot of people who I talk to on a consistent basis, especially when it comes to the hood, right? Who, oh, this is where my mom grew up, this is where my family grew up, this is where my boy's at, this is all this. And I'm like, okay, do you want to succeed or do you not?
Well, I mean, I get why they would want to stay.
But I don't, because if you want to sit here and say that I can't succeed because of where I'm at and all this and that, then move your location. How bad do you want it? And that's what it really boils down to, is how bad do you want to succeed? Because when it comes to me, and this is something I constantly talk to and teach when it comes to the black community, is how bad do you want to succeed? How bad do you want to make it? How bad? You talk about all these things that are keeping you down, but there's no self-accountability or responsibility when it comes to your own actions. You're the ones dealing dope on the block. You're the ones going and shooting up Dudley Do Dirt's house. You know what I'm saying? You're the one doing all this type of nefarious actions that's not doing anything beneficial for you or the community.
But crime is a symptom of the society, right? It's not the fault of the people.
Crime
goes on the rise when, you know, there's been government, I'm trying to think, not misaction, but, you know, bad policies by the government, you know, that lead to economic stagnation, recession, whatever, and then crime goes on the rise.
Well, okay.
It's a symptom of the society, but it's not the fault of the people.
Is it not?
People don't want to be killing each other on the streets.
They don't? I have a whole slew of, not friends, but associates who would say to the contrary.
Well, I don't think truly people want that. I think that like the conditions of someone's life can push them to feel that it is essential.
The conditions of culture can push people to do such things. And that's one thing that constantly is left out of the conversation is the effect of culture. Because Chris Rock even said it in the 90s. You get more props, you get more respect coming out of prison than you do getting a master's degree. That's a cultural issue, right? That's not a government issue. That's a cultural issue. We within the black community see more value in a person who's a trap star. You know what I'm saying? We have a song, Ghetto Superstar. You know what I'm saying? We promote this idea of base living and terrible, treating your fellow man terribly, right? Instead of looking at it as, look, we need to do better for ourselves. We need to do better. Instead of looking at each other as...
That's also a generalization, because I mean, like, black intellectuals and activists are still going to be, like, you know, praised for what they've done.
Absolutely, but check this. That's only because they feed into the idea of victimization within the black community. So these black intellectuals, the Al Sharptons, the Ibram X. Kennedys, the Angela Davises of the world, they stand on their perch and their pedestal. Angela Davis is at like $19 million in her pocket. Not pocket, but assets, you know. She's worth $19 million. She charges a $10,000 speaking fee, right, at the very minimum, to tell people like me that I'm oppressed. I'm not oppressed. Tell other black people that you are a victim of your situation and circumstance. What happens when you teach people from birth all the way through? Because this is a generational thing, like I said. When you teach people victimology from birth and say that you're an automatic victim, you're going to grow up with the mentality that you are a victim. You're going to grow up with this loser mentality that, like, oh, I guess I can't do anything in life. I guess I got to sell. I guess I got to trap on the block. I guess I got to knock up this dude and take his wallet. I guess I got to do all these nefarious things because I'm not going to make it anyways, right? And I think that is a huge problem within the black community. And sad to say, there's a lot of people on the liberal side who perpetuate this idea that people like me can't rise above my situation and status in life without their help. The white savior complex we hear a lot of, right? Or the soft bigotry of low expectations to say that I can't do the right thing based on me knowing what's right and what's wrong. I can't possibly know that. I don't have the scruples to know that. I don't have the scruples to know what's right and wrong, right?
But it's also, you know, lack of opportunity. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, I don't want to victimize you. I don't want to victimize the black community because I know they're not victims. You know, like they have prevailed. But
absolutely,
they still suffer from a lack of opportunities. But that's not...
What opportunities though?
Well, like for education, right?
Okay.
The schools, like the disparity in schools in poor black neighborhoods compared, literally within the same, could be within the same zip code even, compared to the majority white school, it's insane. Like the white students have like better textbooks, they have like MacBooks in the classrooms, you know, like they don't, like they have clean, new buildings, TVs, they have the materials to succeed.
So do you think that black people should be able to go to those schools?
I think that their school should be improved. I don't think that they should be expected to move across town or whatever.
No, not move across.
I think that we should, like, if they're going to be in the same school district, we should give every school the same supplies. But why is it that we don't?
Well,
it's because the government, like, our institutions are racist.
Well, hold on. So, do you believe that black people should be able to go to these better schools?
I mean, if they want to, they can, but I don't think that they should be expected to move across town or whatever.
Not move, just to be able to...
I think that we should give them the same opportunities. Like, we should just make all the schools have, like, the same material.
Well, before I get to that, because I believe in busing. I believe that...
I thought you were going to talk about that.
I'm 100% for busing. I believe that a person in a bad area should be able to have a better opportunity in a good area.
But we should bring the good areas to... There shouldn't be bad areas. We should bring the good opportunities to the bad areas.
But do you believe that a black person should be able to go to a good area?
Yeah.
To a good school. Okay.
If they want to, but I don't think that I don't think that they should have to be pushed to make that decision. They should have already...
No, not push.
Yeah, but
they have the option.
Like, I know, like, you know, the 60s and the 70s with after desegregation and busing, but some people didn't really find it a good thing because you can just find yourself as the only black student in a predominantly white school.
Why is that a problem?
Because people were still pretty racist back then.
Oh no, why is that a problem now? Like if
because that could, like, people still have racial biases. Not everybody, but like it's still a problem. You know.
So I should deny myself an opportunity because someone might say a racist thing towards me?
No, but I understand why, like, maybe a black person wouldn't want to just go to a school
I don't.
of white people.
I don't. I think that, you know, when it comes to success, again, because I don't care, and at the end of the day, we're pushing so many racial divides, right? A black person won't want to be in a place with white people. Why not?
Well, I'm not saying that they don't, but I would understand why a black person wouldn't want to just be thrown into like a completely different cultural environment.
But why would you understand that? Are we not people? Are we not brothers and sisters? Are we not equal?
There's cultural differences.
Yeah, absolutely. But just because we're culturally different doesn't mean that I hate you or you hate me.
No, I mean, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, like, I would understand why a student would want to be around someone who understands them culturally. Because, I mean, like, I remember, like, sometimes, like, we couldn't, like, white kids couldn't understand, like, the way that the black children would talk, and then would bully them because of it.
We're talking about education, right?
But I remember that happening in school.
Bullying happens across racial lines within the same.
It's racist bullying. Because I remember the things that were being said, and it was definitely racist.
So racist bullying is worse than regular bullying? I mean, like.
Is that what I?
No,
well,
I'm just.
Because I don't know.
No, because I feel you. You know what I'm saying?
It shouldn't have happened.
It shouldn't. Bullying shouldn't happen, but it's a fact of life. Racism. There are people who are racist, and you can't stop that. But I'm not going to deny myself an opportunity just because that I might encounter a racist person.
Are you saying that we should like continue to ignore the schools in lower income areas?
Not at all. I think there's a lot of money poured into these school districts, and there's a lot of corruption when it comes to the politicians who run these districts. So there's that issue, and I would love to revamp that. But at the same time, what I'm looking for is for a person who says, I'm going to succeed. Because for you, you're in college, right? Yeah. You're doing your thing. You know, you may have had a bad test, but you're doing your thing, right? You're getting good grades. You're doing the best that you can, right? What's different from you than from me doing the same exact thing at the same institution? Absolutely, and that's the point.
But who's saying that?
Whether someone's coming from, because I came from a low-income family, right? I chose and I decided I was homeless twice in my life, right? And I told myself that I'm going to be successful regardless of what I go through, regardless of my situation and circumstance. No one's going to hold me down. No one's going to hold me back except for me, right? I'm the only person that can hold me down and hold me back when it comes to my future and my success, right? That's the message that we should be promoting to people, is that you are the person that's going to hold you down. You are the person who's going to hold you back. No boogeyman can hold you down. There's no racist boogeyman that's going to say you can come into the school, but I can't. There's no racist boogeyman that's going to say that. There's no racist boogeyman that's going to say you can get this job and you can't. Am I qualified? Am I qualified enough to do the job? Do I have a good history when it comes to my work history? You know, my job application, is it on point? Did I present myself better? Did I articulate my who I am? You got to take these things into consideration when it comes to them hiring, right? And that's what it's about. It's not about equity. I don't need a hand up. That's because that's saying that I'm below and I need help. I don't need help. I need to be able to do for myself and find the same type of gumption that you have. I need to find that for myself, and we need to teach that to the black community instead of saying that we're going to give you hands up and helps with diversity, equity, and inclusion, which doesn't help the black community at all. We see what's going on with diversity hires. I don't want someone hiring someone based on the color of their skin. I want someone hired on their merit. This is a meritocracy. If I get shot 10 times, I want to know that the doctor's going to be able to fix me and save my life and plug those daggone bullet wounds to stop my bleeding. I don't give a daggone hoot what color he is. I want him to fix my situation and circumstance. If I'm getting on a plane, I don't care if he's black, white, Mexican, or alien, right? I don't care if he's a Martian. Can he bring this plane up and can he land it safely? That's all I care about, because it's a meritocracy. It's not about the color of skin, but the content of character.
And that's awesome. However, to go back to how you're saying that our institutions aren't racist, we do have statistics on this. In the medical field, like, you know, there's textbooks given out in medical schools. Babe.
Goodness
Fuck
gracious.
I'm talking. Okay, to specify.
Again, I like to boil it down to what is it that you're doing, right? Because at the end of the day, it's self-accountability, responsibility. Now, the prevailing notion is that Reagan threw all these drugs into the inner cities. Let's go with that. Let's just say Reagan poured drugs into the black community. Why did we take them?
It's due to the addictionology studies behind when people have or are focused within lower income. It's a source of relief that drugs and that type of stimulant that replies. It's a biological answer.
Yeah,
okay.
Also like the collective psychological trauma of history.
Okay, trauma or no trauma? Because there's people who didn't.
But you see this...
No, hold on. The point I'm trying to make is we tend to try to put blame on psychological this study, that study, this person, that person, instead of looking at, here, there's this drug. I know this will F me up. I don't want to, because I know there's
something. A new drug. People didn't really know all the facts.
But once the facts came out, we completely understand what it does to the person.
We had a population addicted.
And that population could have stopped right there if people said, you know what, we're no longer going to do this. Yeah. See, and that's the thing, because I mean, you laugh and all this stuff and smile,
but drugs, it's not
no, I'm not talking about those who are addicted. I mean, we can get them help, we can do any number of things, but when it comes to those who see these effects, right? This continually happens. Why don't we finally say, hey, you're going to make a bad decision when it comes to your life. You're going to do something stupid. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, because I know for me, I want to do something right. If someone does something stupid, I'm not going to say, well, that's everyone else's fault but your own. No, that's your fault. And we gotta have self-accountability and responsibility when it comes to our culture, and we gotta promote that, because we don't anymore. We don't promote any self-accountability and responsibility. We say it's everyone else's fault. Oh, it's your fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's not your own. We do the same thing consistently when it comes to the black community. We pat them on the head and we say, oh, it's okay. At the end of the day, it wasn't your fault. I find a problem with that.
We pat them on the head by locking the majority of their men up in prison.
For committing crimes. Stop committing crimes. Isn't it?
It's that simple.
Yes, it is that simple. Why
does it keep happening?
Because first of all, culturally it's promoted. Secondly, because people make bad decisions when it comes to their lives. Now, I'm a prime example. I have not been locked up in my entire life. Why? Because I decided not to do stupid stuff, right? I decided not to break the law. That's a conscious decision. It's not, and the fact that if someone says it's not a conscious decision, you're taking the self-accountability and responsibility out of the person's hand and saying it's somebody else's fault. That's completely wrong, and that's completely false, and you're not doing, that's hella racist. The soft bigotry of low expectations.